Welcome to a SNAP podcast. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of a SNAP podcast. I'm still Natalie and I'm so grateful to making another episode. I don't know if you listened to previous episode, but I suggest you to go to any podcast platform and search a SNAP podcast and listen to previous episode, give us feedback because we are here to make good content for you. Okay, let's go to this episode and what we're going to talk about and who is our guest. In this episode, we're going to talk about ISEV 2024 in Melbourne. How was it? What happened there? And I have a special guest, one of our ECM member and also an IOC at ISEV 2024. To make long story short, I want Natalie Turner to introduce herself.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Natalie Turner, and I've been on the SNEV ECM, so the Executive Committee, as a member for the past couple of years. The term is soon coming to an end, but I just finished my PhD last year, and it was on extracellular vesicles as biomarkers of fertility in cattle. I don't think many people work with cattle. We may have been one of the only groups, so that was kind of cool. And yeah, I guess just looking on to the next steps, what comes next at the moment. Hopefully starting a postdoc by August in America. So I'll be moving from Australia all the way to the US with my family. And a bit about myself. Well, apart from family life, I guess, which is really busy, and apart from just finishing a PhD, which was also really busy, I just like to do things like creative stuff, like I play a bit of music and I draw sometimes, and just try to do things to relax. So nothing really that exciting at this stage of life, but yeah, that's about it.
I really want to start a friendly conversation with you and more talk about your education and your this going to America and this stuff. But we want to talk about ISEV 2024 and being as a IOC. Tell us about ISEV 2024. How was it and how was to being a member of committee and organizing this event?
Yeah, it was kind of like a really funny, casual conversation. So I was really lucky I got to go to ISEV 2023 in Seattle and actually present some of the work for my PhD, which was awesome. And it was the first time I'd ever gone to any ISEV anywhere. And it was only at that ISEV meeting that I was approached, as I said, very casually by Dave and Cherie, who were the co-chairs of ISEV 2024, and said, "Hey, would you like to be the SNEV representative for ISEV 2024 in Melbourne?" I was like, yeah. And that was kind of it. That was how it happened. And then pretty much the meeting started straight away. So obviously I'm going to give you a very, very biased answer and say ISEV 2024 was absolutely amazing. Best ISEV ever. I've obviously only been to 2 ISEVs, but I just want to say it was a very special meeting, and knowing what I know now about what goes on behind the scenes, all the planning. So my part on the IOC was really just to deal with the early career researcher events, which were like the SNEV satellite sessions. And there were only, I would say, 2 main ones and maybe one smaller one if you count Education Day. And that was enough for me to handle. Like, it was busy, but nothing in comparison to what Dave and Cherie were doing and enlisting help from the other IOC members as well. Like, it was a full 12 months of planning from the moment Seattle finished to the moment it started in Melbourne. Yeah, so, and, my hat is off to Dave and Cherie, the way they pulled it together. But for me, as an early career researcher, it was amazing to have that experience, to know what goes into it, how much is involved, the fact that it's not just like one or two people, it's like a whole team of people that are doing all this work, and seeing it all come to fruition in Melbourne and being a part of it, a part of the team, is really special. And obviously the program was incredible, and Melbourne as a city is amazing, but it was a really nice meeting. I was really happy to be involved and really honored that I was chosen, even though it was just that casual conversation. It wasn't anything big and spectacular. It was really nice. I was very happy.
I don't have the opportunity to be in any ISEV events. Can you tell more about the situation? What is the event about? How is it organizing?
So do you mean like the SNEV events that I organise? We can start there, and then, so the SNEV events were the two main ones, as I said. So one was Meet the Experts, and one was the Careers Q&A panel. I made sure that we kind of advertised heavily on social media beforehand, because I wanted to make sure that people knew about them. But still, it was surprising when we were there. There were a lot of people that approached me and my Mona, who was also there from SNEV, to say, who's SNEV? What is SNEV? What do you do? So there's still a huge audience that have no idea that we exist, which is really incredible. So it was great to have that exposure. So I will say I didn't come up with these events on my own. I kind of stole the idea from Sarah, who was the SNEV rep at ISEV 2023. But because I was there and I attended, I thought, these work so well, let's just keep it going. So I made a fefew minor changes around the format and things, but it was really the same events, just switched up a little bit. So Meet the Experts was a chance for early career researchers to sit down with senior researchers and kind of get their specific opinion on a bunch of different topics related to early career stuff. And I felt like I had put forward a lot of kind of very career-oriented themes for that. So each table was a different theme. People would be at that table for 10 minutes and then move on to the next table. And there were a total of 6 themes, so it kind of went for around an hour. And all the feedback was really great. The experts loved it. The attendees loved it. And I thought it was kind of a shame. We could have maybe gone a little bit longer, but at the same time, it was dinner time, so people kind of wanted to go and eat something. So all these little things that you don't realize you have to think about when you're actually when you're the one organizing the event, you have to think of logistics and timing and all that stuff, as well as actually the event coming off well. And then the Careers Q&A panel, I think last year we just had maybe 4 or 5 people on the panel, and this time I think I invited 10 people altogether, and that was amazing. People came up to me afterwards and said, how amazing, so interesting answers. It was really surprising to hear so many questions about family, balancing work life, career, family, juggling everything, which I wasn't kind of expecting. I don't know why. I think I'm one of the only just finished students out there with kids. There's obviously a lot of people out there who are doing PhDs who have kids, but it really came to the forefront there to see a lot of people asking those questions. And it wasn't just the female panel members who weighed in, it was the male panel members as well, giving their perspective, which was really great. And then beyond that, it was really about making the right decisions, like when to go left and when to go right, and how do you do industry? Do you do academia? At what point do you decide to switch or to stay, or what were those driving factors in your decision making? So it was really dynamic. It was a great discussion, and I was actually just loving being there, listening to it all, even though I was moderating at the same time, I just thought this is the best, just to listen to what they have to say. So yeah.
You're explaining about the event. It's so much interesting for me. I mean, this is something I'm struggling as well. Staying in academia or go to industry, what will be better? I always have these questions in my mind because I'm a student still. So I think that was really helpful for students. Um, what topics were more highlighted at ISEV 2024 about researchers? About topics of researching that they're presenting. I don't know there were any poster presenting things or not, or any articles.
Yep, so it was great for ECRs this year because Cherie actually organised like the poster flash talks. So they were 1 minute each and it was sessions, and people had a chance to just do like a little teaser trailer to their actual poster. But they got to get up and give a quick spiel about it, which was really cool. It was really fun to watch. So my Mona actually won. I was there going my Mona. She had a flash talk and I was really excited.
Yeah, I saw the tweet that she won. Our ECM was there. We were shining there. The Snev was there.
Yeah, so she did great. So that was really good for ECRs to have that exposure. I would say in terms of the themes for the conference, it was really interesting to see the evolution of the themes. So perhaps fundamentals were more prominent in previous ISEVs. This ISEV was all about what's next. Like, what are the next steps? Is it, like, who's going to be the first to come up with a therapeutic that can be delivered in some kind of health setting, you know? So, and then it became even more interesting. Like, at the end of the sessions, especially on Education Day, we had a panel discussion every time. And even during those panel discussions, all these topics are being thrown about and all these responses that, you know, they didn't necessarily align, which was great because it just goes to show there's still kind of so much unknown in what's happening in the field right now. Like, how are we using what we already know to propel ourselves forward? I think there's still some really basic or fundamental things that need to be uncovered, especially around EV uptake and EVs from different species and how they react, and even in cross-kingdom models. And there's so much to learn. And then also, like, how we can use them in clinic. I just think it's a matter of time. But that's, to me, the big takeaway from the conference was kind of like looking to the future of EV research. Like, where are we going?
Yeah. And what do you see as the biggest challenges and opportunities facing the EV?
So, like, as in facing, like, difficulties in progress, or in the community as a whole, or like, because I mean, that's a tough question. That is a tough question, because I think difficulties can be from different things. Like, I would say, so in Australia right now, one of the difficulties is funding.
Yeah,
like that's a difficulty. You can't do funding without research, right? And it depends where you are as to who's going to be interested in EV research. Like, so that's one blockade, but that's probably a problem everywhere. So in terms of the field advancing, I think we need to figure out, like, so EVs, EVs are everywhere, right? So this is just like maybe a bit of a funny way of putting it, but I think we've got so much information on things that a lot of people still struggle to believe actually exist or are a thing, or that are just broken down straight away. Or like we've only done so many like functional and in vivo studies, and it seems like this transition of the kind of preclinical model to the clinical model is what is really difficult right now. So I guess we need to find a way to prove that EVs can really be therapeutically harnessed, that they can be administered in a dose and have an effect in the body in a specific way. And obviously people are working on targeting EVs to specific cells or tissues. They're working on mode of delivery. They're working on biological versus synthetic, but there's a lot to overcome in that respect because, as I said, I think there's still a lot of fundamental things that we might be missing that could help us get there faster, but time, money, this is where I think working with industry would be just like perfect, really, if you had an industry partner in academia. But yeah, I don't know, that's my perspective.
We have many industry companies that they work on EV. Can they help on proving that this field will help in medical stuff or things? I don't know. How is it going?
So I think it's all. Look, I don't have any solid experience working with industry per se, not for a therapeutic purpose anyway. I think it could be down to intellectual property in some cases. So, like for instance, a university working with an industry partner might try and say, if something comes out of it, we want 100% of the intellectual property or 80% or something that's high. And the industry partner says, well, don't worry about it then because we can find investors and do our own research and do it that way. So, and I'm not saying that's the case, but it could be the case. In some cases, it's hard. It's like I'm trying to, there's a lot of gray areas in research, and when it comes to money, I think it's, even more gray, perhaps, but so.
Can these events like ISEV meetings, ISEV events help to progressing this difficulties and make the road more easier for students, or no, it's just for academia and it's just a place for going together and people talk together and just sharing their experiences?
So do you mean at ISEV meetings, like annual meetings? Like I found it might just depend.
Helping to introduce EV to other fields. I mean, get the attention on EV.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I think I also understand why you're saying it, because something I've noticed is this tendency to be quite insular, maybe as a community. Like, I think we could achieve a lot more if we team up with experts in other fields. It doesn't seem to be something that's been done a lot. You're either all in on EVs or like hit the road. So I can't comment. I mean, I would like to see more collaboration between the EV, like the big EV labs and outside fields that could maybe help us a lot. But we'll see. But I've seen in the proteomics community, because that's largely what my PhD was based on. So I'm kind of one foot in EV and the other foot in proteomics. And I've seen that the proteomics community is starting to pay attention to us and start to look at technologies that could improve proteomic analysis of EVs. And perhaps if more different fields start to do similar, then there may be a collaboration in the future. You never know.
Yeah. But I see EV community is really friendly. I mean, researchers from all entire world know each other. They help each other. I have a lot of friends that they are postdoc students or PhD students, but they really friend with me, answering my questions. But I didn't see these things in other fields. How this happened? I mean, what's the differences between fields that EV researchers are this much friendly?
Do you know, that's really funny because I've noticed in other fields, like, it's not friendly. Like, they're all kind of pushing each other. They want to be the best or whatever. And it doesn't seem to be that way in the EV community. And, like, I don't know why, but everyone is really friendly. As you say, like, at ISEV 2024, it was like, people were coming up to me all over the place saying hello and just talk, and I've never met them before, but they're very readily engaging, and I had lots and lots of conversations with people. It just felt like a big kind of community hug. It was really, really nice. And yeah, I haven't experienced that kind of camaraderie before, so I don't know what we're doing different, but I hope it continues. It's really good, and especially for ECRs and students, like, we need that because there's a lot to learn when it comes to EV research. So you need supportive peers and people that can guide you in the right direction, especially if you're coming from a lab that doesn't have a lot of EV research, or your project might be the first in your lab on EVs. And I've heard that story a lot, and people just suffer through and they struggle. But knowing that there's that community, that support network out there that is ready to help, I think it would make a big difference.
If I want to ask more about ISEV events, what is your prediction for the future events? I mean, next year, how will be?
Oh, that's a good question, because it's like this baby that I don't want to let go of, you know, like I just had it this year and I'm like, who am I passing it to for Vienna? I don't even know who it is yet, but I would love, when I do learn who the next SNEV rep is on the IOC for next year, I would love to sit with them and have a really good conversation about strategy and event planning and everything, and maybe even provide some mentorship, because as I say, it was a lot. Like, I was very busy planning the SNEV events, and still not as busy as others on the IOC, but I think we could improve again. I think this only being the second year that we've done it, I think every year we can get better and better. And I kind of don't even want to give away too many ideas. I'd like it to be a surprise for the attendees next year, so maybe I'll keep my ideas a little bit hush-hush at the moment, but I think it's going to be even bigger and better next year.
Okay, can you give me and other students some advice? How is it?
Just any advice?
No. It just as a mom, you can give me advice on anything. But for students in this field, how is it to be a researcher? How we can success, or what should we do? Because as you said, we most of us have the first project in our lab, and it's very hard to convince professors that this idea will work.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I can only kind of share some of my own stories, and I'm not saying that, you know, this is the way it's going to be for everyone, but so I joined a lab that had EV experience, and obviously not working with model organisms, though it was cattle plasma, cattle milk, some human milk, but not really human samples. Human milk was just the side kind of project. So I joined the lab, And I had never heard of an EV before in my life. At that point, I think we were still calling everything exosomes. So, and then I just started to, I guess, read. So I spent so long going through all the literature that I could find, which is not great because you tend to get a little bit lost. But then I found the ISEV guidelines, and these are the 2018 ones. And it kind of saved me in a way, because it kind of started to make sense of everything that I'd been trying to read from like hundreds of different papers. But it just kind of pointed me in that direction. And from there, I was able to even optimize things in my lab that I was doing my PhD in, and it kind of rebuilt it from the ground up. We had a lot of stressful things kind of happening in the lab too. Everyone was wonderful, but we had a lot of things changing. Like when I was 6 months into the PhD, I went on maternity leave because I had my second baby, and then 2 or 3 months into maternity leave, COVID happened. And so I was on maternity leave, but nothing was happening in the lab anyway because no one could go in and do anything. It was, lockdown. By the time I returned, it was December of 2020, and things kind of got going again. But then contracts had ended, postdocs were leaving, students were leaving. It was very strange. So I went from having a lot of support in my own lab to really only being bare bones, like the remaining PhD students. And we had one postdoc that was able to join us for, I think it was just under a year, and then he got into med school and he was like, see ya, I'm out of here, I'm going to a stable career. And I was like, oh, good for you, but not good for us. So lots of stressful things are happening. So I guess the way I got through that, so apart from the technical aspects, yes, ISEV guided me in the right direction. I was super grateful, and very happy that I had co-supervisors who, I had 4 supervisors who all gave me very different opinions on everything, which was awesome because I never got a biased perspective about everything. Everything I did was picked apart from multiple angles, and you have to be okay to take that. That's another thing you have to learn as an early career researcher. You're never going to get it right the first time, and probably not even close to right the first time, and you have to be okay with taking on board that kind of constructive feedback, and just kind of get on with it, one foot in front of the other, and keep going. So having the technical aspects out of the way, following the ISEV guidelines helped, then reading some more, being active in committees, talking to people, networking, just community involvement, and that, as I said, that mentorship. If you're lucky enough to have good mentors as your supervisors, great. That won't always be the case, but 99% of the time you just have to power through anyway, regardless of whether you see eye to eye with your supervisors. So in that case, I would say maybe look for outside mentorship, because it is something that's really important. And you can look within your community, you can within the EV community, or even outside of it. But it is important to have that feeling like you've got someone looking out for you in that way, because it's a hard slog, really, isn't it? You're doing graduate studies and then trying to figure out what to do afterwards. It can be a real jungle, and you can't, I'm not saying you can't do it on your own. I just wouldn't recommend it, because there's better ways to do it and have input from people that you trust that will kind of help guide you.
Yeah. In my experience, because I didn't have any PhD students in my university that were working on EV, being part of a SNEV helped me a lot. We had a lot of researchers that helped me. They told me what to read, what not to read. About the articles, because I really didn't know about EV, and I first thought it was exosomes. and then I understand how it's not just exosomes, it's a huge world. Okay, now you can give us a little advice about being a mom that have 2 kids and and you study. How is it?
Look, it's just crazy all the time. I think just expect the unexpected with kids, because I didn't have any real experience with small children until I had my own. So it is, that's maybe why it made the PhD seem not as bad, because raising a family is like next level. But to be honest, and this is something that came up at ISEV in the Q&A and the careers Q&A panel, is that it kind of it takes a village. Like that's the saying, like it takes a village to raise a child, because it's many, many hands. Like it's not just me, and obviously it's not just me, because I did a PhD while having 2 children. So my husband had a huge part in me being able to even consider doing a PhD, let alone finishing it. So that family aspect and that supporting each other is so important. And I'm just, really incredibly grateful. And I probably don't tell him that enough, but I have told him, especially since finishing. I was like, thank you. I'm like resurfacing now. So, but yeah, exactly. It was not something I would recommend again, like to try and do it all. Like this whole idea of like, oh, you can have it all. Like something has to give. Like if you're doing something that's as full on as a PhD, well, you're not going to get to spend as much time with your family. That's just the way it is. So things have to be shuffled and restructured, and you have to get used to being able to deviate from the plan, because you can have a plan, but it's probably not going to go the way you expect it to go. But yeah, in terms of having a family, 100% best thing I ever did. And my advice, and it is just my advice, is don't wait too long. The postdoc will be there after your maternity leave. The PhD will be there after your maternity leave. Like these things aren't going anywhere. But for women of childbearing age, that window gets shorter every year. And I say this because I spent about 10 years working in clinical IVF practice, like as a IVF coordinator. So I've seen it time and time again where people are trying when they're nearly 40 to have children, and it is hard. It's just a lot harder. It's just biology. So think about it, very long and hard, and try and think about what's right for you. But don't wait too long.
Thank you so much, Natalie. They were all helpful for me, and thank you for this friendly conversation. If you have anything to add about ISEV 2024 that I didn't ask but you wanted to say, mic is yours.
Yeah, only that best experience. I'm so delighted that I was chosen, and I hope that everyone had a great time. I think they did. I did. So, and yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens for the next ISEV next year. And yeah, I just want to say again, like a really big thank you to all the support I received at the conference. And it was support for me personally, but to SNEV as well. And like, well done you, well done the rest of the executive committee. Like, we are really making a difference. And it's nice to see that there's like this kind of ongoing legacy that will happen. So when I finish up my term this year, I feel confident that I'm going to pass the baton to someone who can learn and gain as much valuable experience as what I did in the last 2 years, and like keep it up. It's just really great resource for all ECRs in the EV community.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for accepting our invitation to SNEV podcast. You are a part of the SNEV, of course, but thank you for accepting to being in our podcast. And also, I'm so honored and grateful to talk to you.
And you, thank you so much for inviting me. Again, I'm honored to be here. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We can say bye to our audience.
Bye.